Greetings and salutations to all you folks out there. It's been a while since I've done one of these, but this is going forward going to be one of the Patreon rewards for guys who are helping me out with the channel. Basically, I'm doing a player critique. Circuit sent this replay in, and I'm just going to play from his point of view and offer my recommendations on what he could and should be doing just based on what happens in this replay. The game is on Vale of Isis, and this is a Cybern versus Cybern mirror match, which should make for a pretty evenly balanced playing field. We'll be able to see how things are going on from this perspective. I'm not going to have any intel he doesn't. This is just going to be my recommendations on what should or should not be happening. So right off the bat, I can tell you that Vale of Isis is a pain in the butt to play on because it is such a tight map. The build orders are critical. You only have four mechs on the spawn, 2 in your left side expansion with the Hydro way far away from your spawn location, and then 2 mechs on the right hand side. You definitely don't want to get locked down on this pass because basically you just have a teeny tiny little choke between you and the units on the other side of this, and you don't want to have any incursions into your base. On Vale of Isis, there is a lot of reclaim right here, and you can see Circuit is picking up a couple of rocks right off the bat. Definitely a good thing to be doing, and he's got 3 engineers out the door with 2 Mantis and a scout building, so that's going to provide some early aggression. Your most ideal location for raiding is obviously going to be this right over here. You're going to want to knock out the engineer headed in that direction to eliminate the possibility of your opponent getting the Hydro. That Hydro is going to account for a lot of the early power, and raiding this is going to hurt him. Right there, we see a blip on the radar, which is immediately caught by Circuit, so yay for situational awareness. Already better off than a lot of people in that instance. And Mantis are going to engage and obliterate the threat. Hopefully he will head those back down south. Yes. Good dealio. And pull that denial. Another Mantis and a scout headed down to the south. That is going to help prevent any raiding on this engineer. It does look fairly good eco-wise for Circuit. He is stalled, but not too terribly hard. It looks like he does have an engineer on a patrol order over there. I would highly recommend placing an attack move order with the factory. That would be Alt right click. That will make an engineer travel to that point and sit there reclaiming in a pretty large area around it. It's going to reclaim much more efficiently than an engineer on patrol because it's not moving from one location to the next. This is going to be a successful raid right here. We've got a couple of Mantis shot down, a scout, an engineer, a mass extractor, and denying the Hydro. Unfortunately, there's 2 Mantis moving in that are going to have enough health to burn those off, and that is the end of the raiding party. We do have an air factory online. Perfect amount of power generators. I don't think there was a power stall. He got pretty dang low at one point, but just barely made it by the hair on his chinny chin chin. He does have that Hydro coming in just a minute. The scout picked up the ACU. This is not a bad move at all. ACU is headed up towards this expansion to try to knock that sucker out. I love the Jester play. I absolutely love it. The air factory is not online yet down here. So that Jester's coming in, going to knock out some engineers. Needs to pick up that engineer that's building the air factory, so the air factory cannot come online. And he is targeting the power, as any good person should, because power is critical. I will say about Vale of Isis, it is possible to run the teching game. You do not necessarily have to go land spam or land air mix. You can tech if you want to. There is more than enough reclaim all around your base that if you pick up those rocks with some manual orders, you will be able to get a T2 mech right off the bat and then an adjacent T2 factory and run it without too much impact on your eco. You do need to be careful though, because you have to have available mobile units to fend off any intrusions that may be made around the outside edges. There's the ACU shot. You can actually tell it's an ACU without intel from the shape and size of the shot and the movement speed of the radar blip if you have radar in that area. ACU is pretty much going to claim this unopposed. Circuit was ahead 17-13 mass per tick, and he's still ahead power-wise, but that's going to drop him to 11 versus 13 and 9 versus 13. Down to 280 power. So this is a problem. We can see the map control here. There just were not enough units on the outside edges, and it's kind of a shame to see because there was so many tanks online that they could have easily knocked out the tanks harassing this position. One other thing that I do see is that I don't think there's enough engineers on the field. Also, an interceptor would not hurt. There's a single mobile anti-air, which apparently is going to be enough to chase that interceptor away. I repeat, I love the Jester play, but if you have Jesters without air cover and your opponent gets an air factory, then it's pretty much game over. Because even though these guys have incredibly high health stats, they will die to interceptors. They have no way to defend themselves, and that pretty much loses you the offensive capabilities of these units. If there were more engineers online, there would be more reclaim income, which he doesn't necessarily need at this moment, but he could bring a couple more factories online much quicker and run them. I'm very appreciative of his ecoing ability, though, as he's really doing a good job of not stalling in either resource. Maybe he's a tad overbuilt on power, but not really, because he could have a sudden mass drain and he needs to be able to handle that. Tanks are going to be able to force this ACU back a little bit. Jester's coming in for a little bit more damage potential. Going to knock that ACU down below 75% health. ACU is going to carry on southward and focus on the offensive. Back to that air factory, not building interceptors. Now the air factory is not really building scouts either. We do have one scout here, but this area has not been scouted in a long time, and there is no radar on the right side. He does know that there's a lot of units here, though, so he does not need to get too adventurous with that ACU and that group of tanks, because these two guys are roughly evenly matched at the moment. You've got to do scouting when you have two avenues of access, and all of your units, your ACU, your air power, and most of your build power is on the left side of the map. If anything comes from the right, you are going to get sucker punched so hard you won't know what hit you. And right now, Circuit has a major blind spot that needs to be addressed. A radar right there would be so well worth its mass. It's not even funny. That would be the ideal way to address this, because that radar would cover this whole corner. You'd be able to see all the troop movement, and Axolotl, I think that's how you pronounce that name, Axolotl would not be able to kill it unless he sent a bomber or something to this side. So Circuit's going to do really well for himself, trap and slaughter those tanks that progress too far forward. And here again, we're seeing the issue of not having enough engineers. We have 1, 2, 3 engineers at 8 minutes and 20 seconds into the game. He doesn't have enough engineers to even go get this reclaim field. He has so much reclaim available at his fingertips, and he's not going to be able to get any of it. These factories, what I typically do, it looks like he's assisted them all to the original factory. Okay, what I usually do is I'll set, if I have 6 factories, I'll set like 3 of them to 100% tanks, and then I'll set a couple of tanks, 1 T1 artillery, depending on the faction, something like that. And then I'll have another factory that has an engineer about every 6th unit or so. And that way you have a steady stream about once per minute, and an engineer will head your way, which isn't a whole lot, but by 9 minutes into the game, you'd have about 7 more engineers down here, which could be picking up reclaim, fixing this mass stall, and going ahead and getting all of your other resources online. Now, luckily, Circuit is versus someone who is apparently even less used to this map than he is, because he has allowed all these units back into his base. He just does not have enough units online to pull denial, and I think Circuit should have pressed this advantage right here. He's still got 7k health plus on his ACU, and had he pursued this with his commander and the units that he has gently streaming in, he could have forced the ACU up this way. He may not have actually killed the ACU, but he definitely would have taken out a lot more of this base. And if you can eliminate the power, eliminate the build power, you've won the game in 1 versus 1 ladder match. This isn't ladder, this is a custom 1 versus 1, but you get the point. And again, we have mechs in his possession that he could be claiming. Those things pay for themselves in 18 seconds, and after that you're ahead. So you definitely need to cap those whenever possible. Here come the engineers to do it. Still on 3 engineers. 3 engineers total. I think that's the biggest takeaway from this game. Let's say 2 biggest takeaways. Number 1, scouting. The lack of intel has not killed him yet, and it doesn't look like it will kill him.
Commander under attack.
But I have seen more people eliminated by not knowing what's going on than for any other single reason. And I think this is going to be the win. And number 2, build more engineers. There was so much potential for having so many mass, and it just did not happen. Kudos for winning the game. You know, you can't complain about a win, but it could have been executed much more efficiently. Let's just put it that way. Over here on the right-hand side, see 3 tanks, 2 scouts, and 2 outstanding mass extractors, and then there are no more combat units up here, unless he were to switch these to ground fire, which is not really going to help you a whole lot. So this entire north side could have been wiped out, which would have eliminated 8 mass per tick out of a total of 16 that Axolotl had until this base was invaded. So that would have been half the eco gone, and a whole lot more map control and some more reclaim that Circuit could have picked up. So hopefully this is helpful. Ah, look at that. See, that's the radar that Circuit should have built right there. That is exactly what you should do. Hopefully this is helpful. I really sincerely do wish that, and maybe it's something that all of you guys can use. Most of the general principles that I described in this do apply to all maps. As far as 1 versus 1 play goes, and to a certain extent, team play. So, yeah, maybe this will help some people out. All right, that's going to wrap it up for this cast. Thanks again to Circuit for sending that in and for supporting the channel. And I will see you guys in the next cast. As always, thank you so much for watching.